Hey you there, before you start skipping and looking for the right settings, just please give me a few seconds to explain everything. So this settings video isn't just a regular settings video that literally everyone does. This video is more of a complete settings guide. I'll be going through every single setting in the game that's related to controller, and I'm gonna try and explain them really in depth. And the goal of this video is that once you've finished watching it, you know exactly what controller settings you wanna use, and you won't never ever have to change your settings again. So this video has a lot of stuff. Some stuff that I'll be explaining you might already know, or you just might not care about it. So what I've done is I've completely timestamped this video. The timestamps are in the description and in the pinned comment. So what you can do is open the description, and the very first thing in the description is a list of what I'll be going through in this video, and you can just simply click on the timestamp and it'll show you exactly what you're looking for. But I also highly recommend you guys to watch this entire video through, because the information I'll be giving out will be really in depth. I've put in a lot of time and effort into this video, so I would really appreciate it if you guys could leave a like and subscribe. And without further ado, let's get straight into this video. Alright guys, so we'll be starting off with game settings. Like I said, I'll be explaining everything that's relevant to controller. So if I skip a setting, that means that it's completely useless for you and you don't need to worry about it. Alright, so the first setting is toggle sprint. This setting might be familiar to you from a game like Call of Duty. Basically what this setting means is that you have to click down your joystick every time you want to run, but this is a setting that you want to keep off, because in Fortnite you can use sprint by default, which is the next setting we'll be getting into. Basically in this game you're going to be running 90% of the time, and that means you're going to be constantly spamming your joystick up and down if you would have this setting on, and constantly pressing down a button is going to break the controller way faster. So what is sprint by default then? Sprint by default basically means that your character is going to be running all the time, and you put your joystick all the way up, it automatically goes to running mode and you don't need to press down your joystick. Pretty much every single experienced controller player in this game uses sprint by default. Next setting we have sprint cancels reloading. It's really straightforward. This is a setting that I highly recommend you guys to keep off, since this can lead to your guns not actually reloading when you think that they're reloaded. And if you really need to cancel your reload, you can literally just pull out your pickaxe or build mode, and that's gonna do the trick. So I highly recommend you guys to keep that off. Next setting we have is auto open doors. It means that when you run/walk into a door, it opens it automatically. This is a setting that I highly recommend you guys to keep on. One huge benefit that this setting has is that when you're trying to do this edit, sometimes you just mess up and you do a door instead. Well, if you have auto open doors on, messing up that edit is not gonna stop you, since you're gonna be keeping most of your momentum and you're just basically gonna be running through that door like it never was there. So simply for even that reason, I highly recommend you guys to keep your auto open doors on. Alright, so next up we have combat controls. All of these settings I can't help you guys with. These settings have no benefits to the game really. Everyone has their own preferences, and you want to set these settings exactly to what you prefer. Alright, so next up we got building settings. First one being reset building choice. It means that when you go back to your switch mode, you're always going to be left with the last thing you were building. This setting doesn't have a huge impact on the game, but I've always kept it on, and that's always worked for me, so I recommend keeping it on. Next up we got a pretty new recently added setting, and it's called disable pre-edit option. This is a setting that literally everyone was asking for, and they recently finally added it. This setting completely takes out the option of pre-editing your buildings. I highly recommend you guys to keep this setting on, since there are not many times that you want to pre-edit anything. Next up we got turbo building. All I can say is keep this on. Having this setting off is horrible, since it means that you're gonna have to individually click every single time you want to build. But if you have this setting on, you can just hold down your button and it'll build for you. Next up we got confirm edit on release. It basically means that when you're editing, you don't need to confirm the edit. You can just go into edit mode, select whatever you want to edit, and let go of your edit button, and it'll do the edit. You might want to try this out alone in creative and see which one you like more. Alright, so the last section of game settings are replays. Basically having all your replays off gives you more FPS and less input delay, and yes, even on console it works. Your game just feels better with these settings off. Alright, so the next section is your HUD options. Basically when it comes to your HUD scale, you want to keep it somewhat low. The higher your HUD scale is, the bigger the map, gun slot icons, health bar, etc. will be. All those things can be distracting in some situations if your HUD scale is too high. So I recommend you guys to switch your HUD scale that you can still read the map with and see your health and what guns you have, but you don't want to have your HUD scale any bigger than that, since having a lower HUD scale can really help you out with some of your situations. I've always been using 55%, but that's just what I prefer. Alright, so next up we have controller options, and we'll be starting from the input section. First setting here is controller auto run. This basically means that you can set your character to run by double clicking your joystick. This setting can come in pretty handy. For an example, if you want to drop down for the battle boss and have a drink at the same time, you don't have to keep your thumb on the joystick. So for small situations like that, it's good. Basically myself though, I've always had it off, since sometimes I put it on by accident and that can really mess me up. So personally, I've just kept it off. Next up we got build immediately for Builder Pro. This setting is similar to turbo building. Basically what this means is that when you press down a building piece, it'll instantly place it down. Having this setting on is a must, because just purely having this setting on will make you a 10 times faster builder. Next we have edit hold time. You want to keep this at 0.100. If you're still using a button that you have to hold down for a certain amount amount of time for it to edit, you really gotta switch your keybinds, and I'll help you with that, but that'll be later in the video. Next up, we have vibration. This setting is pretty much somewhat preferential, but one thing about it is having your vibration on can make your hands more shaky and sweaty, so I've always kept my vibration off in this game. Next up, we got sensitivity. Now, first of all, if you're already not, please turn on your use advanced options. It's gonna give you this warning, but don't worry about it. If you're following this video, you're gonna be good, so you can just confirm that. Right, so the first thing that we can change from your sensitivity options is your build and edit mode sensitivity multiplier. But before we get into those, I need to explain look horizontal and vertical speed first. So these two settings right here are your normal sensitivities. As you guys can see, I play on 71%, which is considered pretty high. Your look sensitivity is pretty much all personal preference, but here's how I can help you guys. If you guys want to play on a low sensitivity, I recommend you guys to go anything between 30% and 45%, because anything between those sensitivities isn't way too low or way too fast. So again, 30 to 45% is what I recommend for people that want to play on a pretty low sensitivity. If you're looking for a sensitivity that's in between slow and fast, then I recommend you guys to go with 45 to 60%. Anything between these sensitivities is going to be good for aiming, building, editing. Anything between those sensitivities is a good all-around sensitivity that's basically good for everything. And especially if you're a beginner or someone who has no clue what sensitivity to use, I highly recommend you guys to use anything between 45% to 60%. Last but not least, we have high sensitivity. What I recommend a fast sensitivity for is for someone who wants to be as fast as possible, as mechanical as possible. What I've been using for a long time has been 71%. That's definitely my sweet spot. I'm still able to hit most of my shots while maintaining good, accurate, fast movement. So again, if you want to be as fast as possible, going between anything from 60 to 100% is what I recommend for you guys. And personally, I always keep my look horizontal and vertical speed the same. I know there are some people that don't want to keep them the same. That's just what I prefer and feel the most comfortable and consistent with. So that's what I recommend for you guys as well in this video. You can try different sensitivities out, but once you find a sensitivity that you feel pretty comfortable with, stick to that and don't change it again. A lot of people keep on changing your sensitivity, but that's not good. You want to find a sensitivity that you feel pretty good with and just stick to that, because you'll improve over time. Alright, so now we can go back to your build and edit mode sensitivity. What I personally don't recommend is playing on a low look sensitivity and then super high build and edit mode sensitivity. I feel like doing anything like that can make you super inconsistent. So what I do recommend though is keeping your build and edit mode sensitivities somewhat close to your look sensitivity. And if you guys don't know, your build and edit mode sensitivities are multipliers of your normal look sensitivity. So what these numbers mean here is how many times it multiplies your normal sensitivity. So again, this comes down to your personal preference, but I don't recommend you guys to go under 1x or above 3.5x. If you have your build and edit mode sensitivity on 1, it means that when you're building or editing, your build and edit mode sensitivities are the same as when you're not building. I don't really recommend that, because you want your sensitivity to be a little faster when you're building and editing. So honestly, going anything between 1.5x to 3.5x should be good, and you can't go wrong with that. But again, this is personal preference, but this is the best possible advice that I can give you with this. Then we're coming down to turning horizontal and vertical boost. What these basically are is how much boost it gives you when you put your joystick all the way up. Honestly, personally, don't recommend using these, since using boost can make you inconsistent. Let's say you're aiming at someone and you turn your joystick too high on accident, then it's gonna activate your boost mode and your sensitivity is gonna be so much higher than it was. So that's just one of the reasons why I don't recommend using this. And for those reasons, I'm not gonna be going over turning boost ramp time and instant boost when you're building, since I don't use boost and I don't recommend it. Then we're coming down to your aim down sight sensitivity, also known as ADS. This is pretty much all personal preference. I recommend having this setting pretty low though, since you don't want to aim in and have a super high sensitivity. So honestly, I recommend going anything between 6 and 16% for this. And you can also have boost for your aiming sensitivity. Once again, I don't recommend it at all. Then we're coming down to advanced sensitivity stuff. First, we have look dampening time. I gotta be honest here, I've never used this, so I don't really have any experience on it. I've always kept it at 0, but I know for a fact that it doesn't have a huge impact on your game. The reason I've always kept it at 0 is because that is what has just felt the best for me. So honestly, I recommend you guys to keep it at 0 as well. Then we're coming into look input curve. So basically here you have two options. You have linear and you have exponential. This also comes down to your personal preference. There is no which is better. Basically though, linear works more or less like a mouse. It's like when you start moving your joystick, the movement is instant and it goes straight into your look sensitivity. And then exponential, when you move your joystick, it starts slow, and as you keep on moving your joystick more up, your sensitivity slowly starts to higher. The most mechanical controller players in this game are often on linear, but most of the professional controller esport players are using exponential. Myself though, as soon as linear came out, I started using it, and once I got used to linear, my mechanics got super good, and that's how I started to get noticed by everyone. So yeah, again, it's personal preference, and I personally prefer linear. Then we're coming into dead zones. You can see what dead zones are on the screen right now. You can see that little gray circle there. That gray ball shows the area that your controller is not picking any movement from. So you can see here, if I lower this setting, the ball gets smaller and smaller, and this is as low as you can go in this game. A lot of people use the lowest dead zone possible, which is this 5%, but I recently found out that using the lowest dead zone possible isn't really worth it. I used to think think that this makes your game feel more responsive and makes you a faster player, but I've now recently stick to 9% dead zone and I'm better than I ever have been. Having a higher dead zone eliminates all weird shakiness from your gameplay. A lot of the times when I was playing on a really low dead zone, I was moving the joystick when I didn't even want to, because the dead zone was so low that it literally picked up every single slight movement I did on the joystick. And as soon as I switched to a higher dead zone, that problem was gone. Also, a higher dead zone makes your aim assist a lot more stronger. You can especially see this difference in long distance AR shots. And yeah, having a higher dead zone has helped me so much. So what I recommend for you guys is to go between anything from 7% to 16%. If you do that, you can't really go wrong. Personally though, I've been going with 9 and I find it perfect for myself. You definitely don't want to go above 16%, because as you guys can see, the ball is super big there. And if you go too high, your movement is gonna look super robotic and you're just not gonna have that smooth feeling to your gameplay. Then we're moving on to foot controller. I'll show what a foot controller is on the screen right now. I'm guessing literally no one watching this video has that. So yeah guys, just keep your foot controller off. Last but definitely not least, we're moving on to your custom controller binds. Now these really come down to your personal preference, but again, I'll give the best advice I just can. Basically, the goal here is to have settings that allow you to keep your thumb on the joystick at all times. What's gonna help you with that is playing claw or having paddles. I personally play right hand claw, and it's a huge reason for why I'm as good as I am today. If you don't want to learn how to play claw, you can get paddles. There are countless of controllers with paddles, or these days you can just literally just buy the paddles. Some good controllers with paddles are Astro C40, the Xbox Elite controller, or any SCUF controller. Those are the most common ones and the ones that a lot of pros use. Now if you don't want to play claw or get paddles, there are specific binds that allow you to keep your thumb on the joystick even without paddles or claw, and I'm gonna go over them right now. So the most important binds that you want to have while not moving your thumb from the joystick are jump, switch mode, and edit. So for those who don't play claw or don't want to get paddles, I recommend you guys to bind your jump on your left joystick and your switch mode or edit on your right joystick. If you're playing on a PlayStation controller, there are ways you can touch the touchpad without moving your thumb off the joystick, so you can also try that. And if you're an Xbox controller, you can probably also somehow try and bind something to this button right here, and maybe you'll find a way to press it without moving your thumb off the joystick. And for claw and paddle players, you can really make anything work since you have so much more freedom than someone who doesn't play claw or paddles. For an example, here are my binds and I play claw. These are what I find the most comfortable. Here are my build controls. Again, all of this is just personal preference. There is no right or wrong here. Here are my edit controls, and as you guys can see, my confirm button is different from what my edit button is, and doing that means I'm playing double edit binds. The reason why that's good is because it's faster to press 2 different buttons compared to pressing 1 button twice. I've found that using any bumper or trigger is good to have as your confirm button, since your bumpers and triggers are easy to access and they're easy to reach. That's also why I've bonded my select and reset button on my bumpers and triggers. And yeah guys, that's it. I really tried my best with this video, but there still might be some questions, and if there is, feel free to comment them down below. I'll try my best to help everyone. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. It's been your boy Dims. See you in my next video. Bye.